The grand lobby of Grant and Company towered 30 feet high, its marble columns catching the morning light that streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. Autumn Hayes stepped through the revolving doors, her 3-year-old daughter Ellie's small hand clutched tightly in hers. The child's blonde curls bounced as she walked, her wide eyes taking in the intimidating grandeur of the corporate fortress. Autumn's resume trembled slightly in her free hand as Brenda, the HR manager with steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun, approached them with a look of pure disdain. "You brought a child to a professional interview?" Brenda's voice cut through the lobby like ice. Just then, Ellie reached for the water bottle in Autumn's bag, and in one devastating moment, it slipped from her tiny fingers, spilling across the pristine marble floor. As Autumn dropped to her knees, desperately trying to clean the mess while dozens of suited professionals stared in judgment, the elevator chimed. The chrome doors slid open, and Logan Whitmore, the legendary CEO whose name graced the building, stepped out into the scene. If you stay for what happens next, you'll witness how one man's unexpected kindness can transform 3 broken lives into something beautiful beyond imagination. The morning had started like so many others for Autumn Hayes. At 25, she carried the weight of loss in every careful step she took through life. Her husband Marcus had been gone for 18 months now, taken by a drunk driver on a rainy Tuesday that had shattered her world into pieces she was still trying to reassemble. The insurance money had run out 6 months ago, and her part-time cashier job barely covered their tiny apartment's rent. She'd been studying office administration online late into the nights after Ellie fell asleep, determined to build something better for her daughter. Today's interview at Grant and Company represented more than just a job. It was a lifeline thrown to someone drowning in circumstances beyond her control. Ellie, despite being only 3, possessed an otherworldly wisdom in her bright blue eyes. She had her father's gentle spirit and her mother's resilience, wrapped in a package of innocence that hadn't yet been touched by the harsh realities surrounding them. Her favorite possession was a book of fairy tales, worn at the edges from countless bedtime readings. She believed in magic with the fierce certainty only children possess, often telling her mother that Daddy sends angels to watch us. In her small pink backpack, she carried her treasures: a coloring book, 3 crayons, and a sheet of heart-shaped stickers she'd received from a kind librarian the week before. Logan Whitmore existed in a different universe entirely. At 35, he commanded an empire built on precision, control, and an almost inhuman dedication to perfection. Grant and Company had grown from his father's modest accounting firm into a financial consulting giant that advised Fortune 500 companies. But success had come at a price that no amount of money could repay. Behind the tailored suits and the penthouse office, Logan carried a burden that had shaped every decision he'd made since he was 12 years old. His sister Lily had been 8 when the fire took her, 8 years old with ribbons in her hair and a laugh that could light up their family's modest home. He'd been babysitting that night, had fallen asleep on the couch while she played upstairs. By the time the smoke alarms woke him, by the time the firefighters arrived, it was too late. His parents never blamed him outright, but he saw it in their eyes every day until they divorced 2 years later. Now, 23 years later, he'd built walls so high around his heart that even he couldn't remember what it felt like to let someone in. Brenda Matthews had worked in human resources for 15 years, climbing the corporate ladder with a ruthless efficiency that matched her black and white view of the world. She believed in rules, in boundaries, in keeping personal life far from professional spaces. To her, Autumn Hayes represented everything wrong with the younger generation: no discipline, no respect for proper protocols, no understanding of how things should be done. Logan's Italian leather shoes clicked against the marble as he approached the scene. His presence commanded immediate attention, conversations dying mid-sentence as employees recognized their CEO. He took in the tableau before him: a young woman on her knees, frantically wiping at spilled water with tissues from her purse, while a small child stood frozen with tears beginning to form in her eyes, and Brenda looming over them both, like an executioner. "What's happening here?" His voice was calm, but carried an undertone that made Brenda straighten immediately. "Mr. Whitmore, this person brought her child to a professional interview. As you can see, it's already causing disruption. I was just explaining that Grant and Company maintains certain standards." Brenda's explanation was cut short by Logan raising his hand. He looked at Autumn, who had risen to her feet, her cheeks flushed with humiliation, but her chin raised with a dignity that caught his attention. "Why did you bring your daughter?" he asked, his tone neutral, genuinely curious. Autumn's voice was steady despite the trembling in her hands. My babysitter canceled 20 minutes before I needed to leave. I've been trying to get this interview for 3 months. I couldn't. I couldn't miss this chance. Ellie knows how to be quiet. She would have sat in the corner with her coloring book. No one would have even known she was there. Her voice cracked slightly on the last words, but she held Logan's gaze. Logan studied her for a long moment. He saw the carefully mended run in her stockings. The way her blazer was slightly too large, probably borrowed the shoes that had been polished to hide their age. But more than that, he saw the fierce determination in her eyes, the same look his mother had worn working 3 jobs after the divorce. What position are you interviewing for? Administrative assistant, sir. In accounting. Autumn's hand found Ellie's shoulder, a protective gesture that wasn't lost on Logan. Brenda, conduct the interview as scheduled. I'll arrange for someone from daycare services to watch. He looked down at the little girl. What's your name? Ellie, the child whispered, then reached into her pocket. Before anyone could react, she had pressed a wrinkled, heart-shaped sticker against Logan's hand. For being nice to Mommy. Something shifted in Logan's expression, so subtle that only someone watching closely would have noticed. He looked at the sticker on his hand, pink and slightly torn at one edge, then back at the child. Thank you, Ellie. He turned to Autumn. We'll give you a 2-week trial. If you prove yourself capable, the position is yours. Mr. Whitmore, Brenda protested. This sets a dangerous precedent. The precedent I'm interested in setting, Logan interrupted, his voice taking on a steel edge, is one where we judge people by their potential and their character, not by their circumstances. 2 weeks, Miss Hayes. Don't make me regret it. As he walked toward his private elevator, Logan looked at the sticker on his hand again. He couldn't explain why, but instead of removing it, he carefully placed it in his wallet. From 20 floors above, he watched through his office window as Autumn and Ellie emerged from the building 2 hours later. The little girl was skipping, and for the first time he could remember, Autumn Hayes was smiling. Logan's days followed a precision that would have impressed a Swiss watchmaker. He woke at 5 a.m. without an alarm, ran 8 miles along the Hudson River, reviewed international markets over black coffee and exactly 2 pieces of whole-grain toast. His penthouse apartment could have graced the pages of Architectural Digest, all clean lines and cool surfaces, no photographs, no personal touches, except for a single painting his sister had made in art class the week before she died. It hung in his bedroom where no one else could see it, a child's rendering of a house with a smiling sun and 2 stick figures holding hands. The guilt was his constant companion, more faithful than any friend or lover had ever been. It whispered to him in quiet moments, roared at him in his dreams. He'd tried therapy once, but stopped when the psychiatrist suggested forgiveness. How could he forgive what was unforgivable? Instead, he had channeled everything into building an empire, as if success could somehow balance the cosmic scales. He donated millions to fire safety organizations, funded burn units in pediatric hospitals, but it never felt like enough. Nothing ever would. But something about Autumn Hayes had disturbed his carefully ordered universe. It wasn't pity he'd encountered hundreds of hard-luck stories in his career. It was the way she'd knelt to clean that spilled water, not with defeat but with a quiet determination to fix what could be fixed and move forward. It reminded him of something he'd lost, though he couldn't quite name what. That night, for the first time in years, he'd looked at Lily's painting for more than a few seconds, wondering what kind of woman she might have become, what kind of mother she might have been. Autumn's first week at Grant & Company tested every ounce of strength she possessed. She arrived each morning at 7:30 a.m., having dropped Ellie at a daycare that cost nearly half her weekly salary. The work itself wasn't difficult. She was intelligent, organized, and her online courses had prepared her well for the technical aspects. It was the social navigation that proved treacherous. Her desk was positioned in the center of the accounting floor, surrounded by employees who had witnessed her humiliating first encounter in the lobby. I heard she was on welfare. Jessica from Accounts Receivable whispered loudly enough for Autumn to hear. Can you imagine? From food stamps to Grant & Company? Logan felt sorry for her. Brad from her team added. Give it 2 weeks. She'll be gone the minute the trial period ends. Autumn kept her head down, completed her assignments with meticulous attention to detail, and never responded to the barbs. She discovered errors others had missed, streamlined filing systems that hadn't been updated in years, and always had fresh coffee ready for the morning meetings. But it was the small acts of kindness that truly set her apart. When she noticed Harold, the elderly janitor, eating alone in the supply closet, she began sharing her lunch with him, even when it meant going hungry herself. When Sarah from IT was crying in the bathroom after a harsh performance review, Autumn offered tissues and a listening ear without judgment. Logan observed it all from a distance. He had access to every security camera, every performance metric, every email. He watched her give away half her sandwich, saw her stay late to help a colleague meet a deadline even though that same colleague had mocked her earlier. He noticed how she never complained, never made excuses, never used her circumstances as a shield. Most remarkably, he saw how she spoke about Ellie during her brief lunch calls, not with exhaustion or resentment, but with a love so pure it made something ache in his chest. On her 10th day, Autumn made a mistake, a significant one. She had transposed numbers in a major client report. Brenda was practically glowing as she marched Autumn toward Logan's office, clearly expecting this to be the end. But when Logan reviewed the error, he also saw that Autumn had already caught it herself, had stayed until midnight, correcting not just her mistake, but reviewing every report from the past month to ensure no similar errors existed. She had attached a note taking full responsibility and outlining the steps she'd implemented to prevent future occurrences. "Everyone makes mistakes, Miss Hayes," Logan said, his expression unreadable. "What matters is how we respond to them. Your trial period ends in 4 days. I think we both know you've earned the position." As Autumn left his office, struggling not to cry from relief, Logan found himself staring at the heart sticker he'd moved from his wallet to his desk drawer. He couldn't explain why he kept it, only that throwing it away felt like betraying something sacred. Sunday arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of spring day that couldn't decide if it wanted to rain or shine. Central Park was nearly empty, which is why Logan noticed them immediately. Autumn and Ellie were working their way along a path, picking up trash and placing it in a garbage bag Autumn carried. They both wore rain boots, Autumn's plain black, Ellie's covered in rainbow unicorns. The child was treating it like a game, exclaiming over each piece of litter as if it were treasure. Logan had been running, trying to outpace his thoughts as he always did on weekends, but something made him slow, then stop, watching them from a distance. An elderly man on a bench saw what they were doing and tried to hand Autumn a $20 bill. She declined gently, and Logan was close enough to hear Ellie ask, "Mommy, why are we cleaning when this isn't our park?" Autumn knelt down, her hands on her daughter's shoulders. "Because we don't wait for the world to be kind, sweetheart. We make it kind. Every small action matters. Every piece of trash we pick up makes the world a little more beautiful for everyone." "Like magic?" Ellie asked. "Exactly like magic." Logan approached them then, his decision made before his mind could interfere. "Miss Hayes, Ellie." Both turned, Autumn's surprise evident. She was different outside the corporate environment, softer somehow, her hair loose instead of pulled back, wearing jeans and an old Columbia University sweatshirt. "Mr. Whitmore, we were just," Autumn began, immediately defensive. "Making the world kind," Logan finished. "I heard. It's admirable." He paused, then made an offer that surprised even him. "Have you had lunch? There's a place nearby that makes excellent grilled cheese. I hear that's a favorite among the younger demographic." He looked at Ellie, who was studying him with those impossibly blue eyes. "Do they have tomato soup?" Ellie asked seriously. "Grilled cheese needs tomato soup." "I believe that can be arranged." The lunch that followed was unlike anything Logan had experienced in his adult life. Ellie chattered about her favorite books, her best friend at daycare named Marcus, after her father, Autumn explained quietly, and her belief that puddles were actually portals to other worlds. She insisted Logan try his grilled cheese dunked in soup, declaring him not a real grown-up when he hesitated. Autumn laughed, really laughed for the first time since he'd met her, and the sound did something to the careful architecture of his defenses. "You're different outside the office," Autumn observed as Ellie went to look at the restaurant's fish tank. "So are you," Logan replied. "You're lighter. It's easier on Sundays. I don't have to pretend to belong somewhere I don't." "You belong," Logan said firmly. "You've earned your place." "Have I? Or am I just your good deed? The poor single mother you saved?" The question hung between them, and Logan realized she deserved honesty. Initially, perhaps there was an element of that. "But you've proven yourself beyond any doubt. Your work is exceptional. More than that, your integrity is something money can't buy. Grant and Company needs more people like you. Autumn studied him for a long moment. Why do you look so sad when you think no one's watching? The question hit him like a physical blow. Before he could respond, Ellie returned, tugging on his sleeve. Mr. Logan, will you come to the park with us next Sunday? Mommy says we're going to feed the ducks. I wouldn't want to intrude. It's not intruding if you're invited, Ellie said with 3-year-old logic. Logan looked at Autumn, who nodded slightly. Sunday, 2 o'clock, by the pond. As they parted ways, Logan realized it was the first time in 23 years he'd looked forward to something that had nothing to do with work. The photograph appeared on the company's internal social media platform Monday morning. Someone had seen them at the restaurant, had captured the moment when Ellie was showing Logan how to properly dunk his sandwich while Autumn laughed. The caption read, "CEO's new charity case? How far will the single mom go to keep her job?" By noon, the gossip had reached fever pitch. Speculation ran from affair to gold digger to worse. Autumn kept her head high, but Logan saw the strain in her shoulders, the way her hands shook slightly as she typed. On Tuesday, printed copies of the photo appeared on her desk with cruel annotations. On Wednesday, someone accidentally spilled coffee on her coat. She never complained, never reported it, just quietly continued her work. Thursday morning, Brenda made her move. She called Autumn into HR, where 3 other senior managers waited like a tribunal. Miss Hayes, serious concerns have been raised about your relationship with Mr. Whitmore. This is creating a hostile work environment and raising questions about favoritism. We think it best if you resign, quietly. We'll provide a modest severance and a neutral reference. There is no relationship, Autumn said firmly. Mr. Whitmore has been nothing but professional. This photo suggests otherwise. And frankly, your presence here has been disruptive from day one. The child in the lobby, now this. Grant and Company has a reputation to maintain. Brenda pushed a resignation letter across the desk. Sign this and we can all move forward. Autumn looked at the letter. The severance would cover 2 months of expenses, enough time to find another job, to keep Ellie safe and fed. Her pen hovered over the signature line. Every instinct told her to run, to take what was offered and disappear. But then she thought of Ellie asking why they cleaned the park, thought of her answer about making the world kind. No, she said quietly. I beg your pardon? Brenda's voice was ice. I said no. I've done nothing wrong. My work is exemplary. If you want me gone, you'll have to fire me, and we both know you have no grounds. The door opened before Brenda could respond. Logan entered, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Interesting meeting. I wasn't invited. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the resignation letter, Autumn's defiant posture, Brenda's guilty expression. He crossed to the desk, picked up the letter, and very deliberately tore it in half. Then quarters, then eighths. Mr. Whitmore, we were just, Brenda began, attempting to force out one of our best new employees based on malicious gossip and a photograph of 3 people having lunch. Logan's voice was deadly quiet. Miss Hayes's performance metrics are in the top 5% of all new hires. She's corrected systematic errors that went unnoticed for years. She's shown more professional integrity in 3 weeks than some show in entire careers. He turned to Autumn. But more importantly, questioning her character means questioning mine. And I don't think anyone in this room wants to do that. The silence stretched until one of the other managers cleared his throat. Of course not, Mr. Whitmore. This was a misunderstanding. Indeed, a misunderstanding that will be corrected by a department-wide memo clarifying Grant and Company's zero-tolerance policy for workplace harassment and gossip. Brenda, you'll draft that memo. I'll expect it on my desk within the hour. He turned to Autumn. Miss Hayes, please come with me. They walked to the elevator in silence. Only when the doors closed did Logan speak. You were going to sign it. I have a daughter to think about. What would you want your daughter to do in the same situation? Autumn was quiet for a moment. Stand up for herself. Then you made the right choice. The elevator opened onto the roof garden, 20 stories above the city. It was Logan's private retreat, though few knew it existed. Garden boxes held herbs and vegetables, a small greenhouse sheltered delicate flowers, and a bench faced west toward the Hudson River. I come here when I need to think, Logan explained, or when I need to remember why any of this matters. They stood at the railing, the city spread below them like a circuit board. You asked why I look sad, Logan said suddenly. I had a sister, Lily. She died when she was 8. There was a fire. I was babysitting. The words came out stilted, unpracticed. It was my fault. How old were you? 12. You were a child. I was responsible. I fell asleep. She died. Those are facts. Autumn turned to face him fully. Can I tell you something? After Marcus died, I blamed myself. If I hadn't asked him to pick up milk, if I hadn't been too tired to go myself. If. The guilt was eating me alive until Ellie said something. She said Daddy went to heaven because the angels needed him more than we did. 3-year-old theology, but it made me realize something. We can't control everything. We can't save everyone. All we can do is try to be kind, to do better, to help who we can. I've helped hundreds of people. It never feels like enough. Because you're not trying to help them. You're trying to save Lily, and you can't. But Logan, she used his first name for the first time. Lily wouldn't want this for you. No sister would want their brother to live in penance forever. Logan's hands gripped the railing until his knuckles went white. You don't understand. The last thing she said to me was, I love you, Logan. And I didn't say it back. I was annoyed because I wanted to watch television. Autumn reached out, covered one of his hands with hers. She knew. Children always know. They stood there as the sun began to set, her hand over his, the weight of shared grief somehow lighter for being carried together. Finally, Logan spoke again. That photo. I'm sorry you were subjected to that because of me. I'm not. Ellie had the best time. She's been asking when she can see Mr. Logan again. And her mother? Autumn smiled softly. Her mother thinks Mr. Logan might benefit from more grilled cheese education. Sunday, then. Sunday. As they left the roof, Logan felt something shift inside him, like a door opening in a room he'd forgotten existed. The storm hit Friday night with a vengeance that seemed personal. Rain lashed against windows, wind howled through streets, and the power grid struggled to keep up. In her small apartment in Queens, Autumn woke to water dripping from the ceiling onto Ellie's bed. Within an hour, the drip had become a steady stream. The landlord's phone went straight to voicemail. The power flickered once, twice, then died entirely. Ellie woke crying, cold and frightened. Autumn wrapped her in every blanket they owned, but the apartment was rapidly becoming uninhabitable. Water now poured through multiple points in the ceiling. Their neighbor had evacuated to her daughter's house. The emergency shelters were overflowing. Autumn held Ellie close, singing softly to keep her calm while her mind raced through increasingly desperate options. At 2 a.m., with no other choice, she called Logan. He answered on the second ring, voice alert despite the hour. Autumn? What's wrong? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to call. The ceiling is leaking and the power's out and Ellie's so cold and I don't know what to... I'm coming. Send me your address. Logan, you don't have to... Address. Now. 20 minutes later, his Mercedes pulled up outside the building. He took in the scene, Autumn soaked, despite her raincoat, Ellie bundled in her arms, their few possessions in garbage bags to protect them from the rain. Without hesitation, he lifted Ellie from Autumn's arms, wrapping his coat around the shivering child. Let's get you both warm. The drive to his penthouse was quiet except for Ellie's occasional whimpers. Logan had the heat turned up full blast, and by the time they arrived, she had stopped shivering. The doorman's eyes widened seeing Logan carrying a child, followed by a bedraggled woman, but he said nothing. Logan's apartment was like stepping into another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the storm-lit city, modern art adorned the walls, and everything spoke of wealth beyond Autumn's comprehension. But all she cared about was that it was warm and dry and safe. Guest bedroom is through here, Logan said, leading them down a hallway. There's a bathroom attached. I'll find something dry for you both to wear. An hour later, Ellie was asleep in the massive guest bed, wearing one of Logan's t-shirts that came down to her ankles. Autumn emerged from the bathroom in sweatpants and a Columbia Law School hoodie, her hair towel-dried and falling in waves around her shoulders. She found Logan in the kitchen making hot chocolate. I can't thank you enough, she began. You don't need to thank me. Any decent person would do the same. No, Autumn said firmly. They wouldn't. You did. She moved around his kitchen with easy grace, noting the professional-grade appliances that looked barely used. When's the last time someone actually cooked here? Logan thought about it. I hired a chef for a dinner party 2 years ago. That's criminal. A kitchen like this needs to be used. She opened his refrigerator, surveyed the contents. Eggs, milk, flour. I can work with this. You don't have to. I want to. Cooking calms me. Plus, Ellie will be hungry when she wakes up. Logan watched as she transformed his sterile kitchen into something warm and alive. She made French toast, bacon, fresh orange juice, moving with the confidence of someone who had learned to create abundance from scarcity. The smell drew Ellie from sleep, and soon the three of them were seated at Logan's dining table, rain still lashing the windows but unable to touch the warmth inside. "This is like a castle," Ellie announced, syrup dripping down her chin. "Are you a prince, Mr. Logan?" "No, sweetheart. Far from it. Mommy says princes are the ones who help people. You helped us. That makes you a prince." Logan looked at Autumn, who was trying not to smile. "Your mother has interesting definitions." After breakfast, Ellie explored the apartment with wonder, particularly fascinated by the view. She pressed her nose against the glass, watching the storm. "It can't hurt us up here," she said confidently. "No," Logan agreed. "You're safe here." The word safe hung in the air. Autumn felt it too, not just physical safety from the storm, but something deeper. For the first time since Marcus died, she didn't feel like she was drowning. As the day wore on, a strange domesticity settled over them. Ellie colored at the coffee table while Logan worked on his laptop nearby, occasionally pulled into discussions about which color dragons should be. Autumn curled up in an armchair with a book from his library, wearing his clothes, looking like she belonged there. When Ellie grew tired, she climbed onto the couch beside Logan, resting her head against his arm. He froze, unsure what to do, until Autumn nodded encouragingly. Carefully, as if she might break, he adjusted so Ellie could sleep more comfortably against him. "She trusts you," Autumn said softly. "She doesn't trust easily anymore." "What about her mother?" Autumn met his eyes. "She's learning to." That evening, with the storm still raging, they ordered Chinese food and ate it sitting on the floor of the living room like a picnic. Ellie insisted on teaching Logan a clapping game, laughing hysterically when he couldn't keep up. Autumn hadn't seen her daughter this happy since before Marcus died. When it came time for bed, Ellie asked if they could stay in the castle forever. Logan knelt down to her level. "You can stay as long as you need to." "Promise?" "Promise." After Ellie was asleep, Autumn found Logan standing by the windows watching the storm. "This must be strange for you. Your whole routine disrupted." "Strange, yes, but not unwelcome." He paused. "I forgot what it felt like." "What?" "To have life in these rooms. To have family." "Logan." Autumn moved closer, close enough to see the vulnerability in his eyes. "I'm scared." "Of the storm?" "Of hoping. Of believing this could be real. Every time I've hoped for something since Marcus died, it's been taken away." Logan turned to face her fully. "Then let me carry the hope for both of you, until you're ready." "What if I'm never ready?" "Then I'll keep carrying it." They stood there, inches apart, the storm outside unable to match the intensity of the moment between them. Finally, Autumn stepped back. "I should check on Ellie." "Of course. Autumn?" She turned back. "You're not alone anymore, neither of you." She nodded, not trusting her voice, and left him standing there. Logan remained by the window long into the night, but for the first time in 23 years, the guilt felt lighter, making room for something else, something that felt dangerously like hope. A year passed, like pages turning in Ellie's favorite storybook. Seasons changed, bringing new chapters in their intertwined lives. Autumn had not only secured her position at Grant and Company, but had been promoted twice, her natural intelligence and work ethic finally given the platform they deserved. But it was her initiative that truly set her apart. The New Roots program had been Autumn's idea, born from her own experience. It provided paid internships and mentorship for single parents trying to rebuild their careers. The program included on-site childcare, flexible hours, and educational support. What started as a proposal she nervously presented to the board became Grant and Company's most successful community initiative, eventually adopted by 3 other major corporations. Logan stood at the podium in the company's main conference hall, addressing the first graduating class of New Roots participants. 25 single parents sat before him, dressed professionally, their children in the front row wearing their Sunday best. Ellie sat with them, now 4 years old and self-appointed assistant to the program, helping hand out certificates with great solemnity. "When Autumn Hayes walked into our building 18 months ago," Logan began, his voice carrying to every corner of the room, she carried with her not just a resume, but a determination that redefined what strength looks like. She showed us that our greatest assets aren't our portfolios or our profit margins, but our capacity to lift each other up. The new Roots program isn't charity, it's an investment in human potential. Each of you has proven that given the opportunity, you don't just survive, you thrive. He found Autumn's eyes in the crowd. Miss Hayes, would you join me? Autumn walked to the stage, wearing a navy dress that actually fit properly, her confidence evident in every step. The woman who had once knelt to clean, spilled water now stood as Director of Community Development, a position created specifically for her. I want to share something, Autumn said, taking the microphone. A year ago, my daughter asked me why we were picking up trash in a park that wasn't ours. I told her we don't wait for the world to be kind, we make it kind. Each of you has made the world kinder simply by not giving up. Your children are watching you choose hope over defeat, effort over excuses. You're not just changing your own lives, you're changing theirs. As the certificates were distributed, Logan noticed Ellie tugging on his jacket. He bent down to her level. What is it, little one? Daddy Jamie is crying happy tears, she whispered, pointing to one of the graduates. You should give him your handkerchief. That's what Daddy Logan does when Mommy cries happy tears. The words hit him like lightning. Daddy Logan. She'd been calling him that for 3 months now, ever since the night she'd had a nightmare and he'd been the one to comfort her, to read her back to sleep. He'd never corrected her, couldn't bear to. After the ceremony, as families mingled and celebrated, Brenda approached Autumn. The HR manager had undergone her own transformation over the past year, her rigid worldview softened by witnessing the program's success. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. I was wrong about you. About all of this. We all have room to grow, Autumn replied graciously. Thank you for supporting the program. As the crowd dispersed, Logan pulled Autumn aside. There's something I need to discuss with you, privately. They went to his office, Ellie occupied with a puzzle in the corner. Logan seemed nervous, a state so unusual that Autumn felt her own anxiety spike. Is everything okay? I've been thinking about equity, he began, about value, about what people deserve versus what they're given. He pulled out a document. This is a partnership agreement. 5% equity in Grant and Company, vested over 5 years. It's not a gift, it's a recognition of the value you've already brought and will continue to bring. Autumn stared at the number. 5% of Grant and Company was worth. She couldn't even calculate it. Logan, I can't. You can. You've earned it. The board has already approved it. Frankly, they're terrified another company will poach you. He paused. But there's something else. Something not in that document. He moved closer, and Autumn's breath caught. I've spent 23 years believing I didn't deserve happiness. That love was a luxury I'd forfeited. Then you and Ellie walked into my lobby and gradually, without my permission, you both moved into my heart. I'm in love with you, Autumn. Not as CEO to employee, not as rescuer to rescued, but as a man who's learned that redemption isn't about grand gestures, it's about choosing love over fear, every day. Autumn's eyes filled with tears. Logan. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. She silenced him by rising on her tiptoes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was soft, tentative at first, then deeper as months of restrained feelings finally found expression. When they parted, both were breathless. I love you too, she whispered, but I was terrified it was just gratitude, just... It's not, he said firmly. I know the difference. This is the 17-year-old boy who never got to become a normal man, finally learning what it means to truly live. This is Lily's brother choosing to honor her memory with love instead of guilt. This is me, asking you and Ellie to be my family. We already are, Autumn said, and kissed him again. Ellie, who had been pretending not to watch, piped up, Does this mean we can live in the castle forever now? Logan laughed, a real laugh that transformed his entire face. Yes, little one, forever. 6 months later, on a beach in Maine where the Atlantic Ocean met the rocky shore, a small gathering of people stood in a circle as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and rose. The wedding was deliberately simple, no grand ballroom, no hundreds of guests, just the people who truly mattered. Harold the janitor stood as Logan's best man, wearing a new suit Logan had insisted on buying him. You saw her worth from the beginning, Logan had told him. You shared your lunch with her when others turned away. A true friend stands by you in the small moments, not just the big ones. Sarah from IT was Autumn's maid of honor, the woman whose tears in the bathroom had led to an unexpected friendship. The New Roots graduates formed a small choir. their children throwing rose petals with enthusiastic abandon. Ellie, now 4.5, walked down the sandy aisle with intense concentration, her flower girl basket clutched in both hands. Her dress was pale blue, she'd insisted. Princesses didn't always wear pink with ribbons that matched the ocean. When she reached Logan, she tugged on his hand until he bent down. "Don't be nervous, Daddy Logan. Mommy says you're stuck with us now." The gathering laughed, tension breaking into joy. When Autumn appeared, walking alone but not lonely, Logan forgot to breathe. She wore a simple cream dress that moved like water, her hair crowned with small white flowers Ellie had picked that morning. But it was her expression that stopped his heart, pure joy mixed with certainty, the look of someone who had walked through darkness and chosen to embrace the light. The officiant, an old friend of Logan's father who had known about Lily, spoke about second chances, about how love doesn't erase loss but transforms it into something bearable, even beautiful. "Marriage isn't just about two people choosing each other," he said. "Sometimes it's about two broken halves discovering they make a stronger whole." When it came time for vows, Logan spoke first, his voice steady despite the emotion. "Autumn, you and Ellie didn't just walk into my life, you broke it open. For 23 years, I lived in penance for a tragedy I couldn't prevent. You taught me that honoring the dead doesn't mean joining them in spirit. You showed me that love isn't something we deserve. It's something we choose, again and again. I promise to choose you every morning. I promise to be the father Ellie deserves and the partner you can lean on. I promise to pick up trash in parks, to eat grilled cheese with tomato soup, and to believe that small acts of kindness can change the world. But mostly, I promise to love you both with everything I have, everything I am, and everything I'm still becoming." Autumn was crying before he finished, not bothering to hide it. "Logan, when Marcus died, I thought my story was over. I was just trying to survive each day for Ellie. Then you appeared in that lobby like something out of her fairy tales, the unlikely prince who saw past the surface to what we could be. You didn't save us. You empowered us to save ourselves. You gave me chances when the world had written me off. You became the father Ellie needed and the love I never thought I'd find again. I promise to stand by you on the hard days when the guilt whispers. I promise to fill your sterile kitchen with chaos and warmth. I promise to love you not in spite of your broken pieces, but because of how beautifully you've rebuilt yourself. Together, we're not perfect, we're something better. We're family." When the officiant pronounced them married, Ellie broke from her position and ran to them, wrapping her arms around both their legs. Logan lifted her up, and the three of them stood there, embracing as the sun set behind them, their shadows merging into one. The reception was at a small seaside restaurant, more celebration than ceremony. Logan's first dance wasn't with Autumn, it was with Ellie, who stood on his feet as he waltzed her around the floor to Tale as Old as Time, her favorite song. When he finally danced with Autumn, Ellie insisted on being included, so the three of them swayed together, a perfect circle of belonging. Harold gave a toast that brought everyone to tears. "I've cleaned the floors of Grant and Company for 15 years. I've seen hundreds of people walk those halls, but I've never seen anyone change a place like Autumn did. She didn't just change the company, she changed the man who ran it. She reminded us all that kindness isn't weakness. It's the greatest strength their island." As the evening wound down, the New Roots families created an impromptu celebration, their children dancing on the beach, building sandcastles in their formal clothes. One of the graduates approached Logan. "My son asked me why you helped us when you didn't have to. I told him sometimes angels look like CEOs in expensive suits." Logan shook his head. "The only angel here is the woman who had the courage to create this program." He found Autumn talking to Sarah, pulled her close. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Whitmore?" "I've been home," she said, hand over his heart, "since the moment you tore up that resignation letter." As they walked along the beach, Ellie running ahead to chase sandpipers, Logan stopped suddenly. "I need to tell you something. I went to Lily's grave last week, for the first time in 5 years. I told her about you, about Ellie. I told her I was finally ready to live." He pulled something from his pocket, a small locket. "This was hers. I'd like Ellie to have it. So a piece of Lily can be part of our family too." Autumn took the locket, opened it to find a picture of young Logan with a girl who had his same eyes. "She's beautiful. She would have loved you, both of you." "She does," Autumn said simply. "Love doesn't die, Logan. It just transforms. She's been with you all along, waiting for you to forgive yourself." They caught up to Ellie, who was building what she called a hope castle in the sand. "It has to be tall," she explained seriously. so everyone can see it and remember to be kind. As the last light faded from the sky, the three of them walked hand in hand along the shore. Autumn in the middle, Logan on her right, Ellie on her left, their footprints creating a path in the sand that the waves would wash away by morning. But the love they'd built, brick by brick, kindness by kindness, would stand longer than any castle, stronger than any storm. What had begun with spilled water in a marble lobby had become an ocean of possibility. The widow who'd arrived desperate for a chance, the CEO imprisoned by guilt, and the little girl who believed in magic had rewritten their stories together. They were proof that sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of another, better one. In fairy tales, the prince saves the princess, but in real life, in the best stories, we save each other. Logan had given Autumn opportunity. Autumn had given Logan forgiveness, and Ellie had given them both permission to believe in happily ever after. The New Roots program would go on to help hundreds of families. Logan would finally fund a community center in Lily's name, a place where children could always be safe. Autumn would write a book about resilience that would spend weeks on bestseller lists. But those were all just details, footnotes to the real story. The real story was simpler. Three broken people had chosen to become whole together. They'd learned that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose broken pieces fit with yours to create something beautiful. And in a penthouse apartment high above New York City, in a kitchen that now always smelled like something wonderful cooking, in a living room where toys mixed with expensive art, in a bedroom where nightmares were chased away by lullabies, sung by two voices in harmony, a family lived. Not perfect, but perfectly theirs. Every Sunday they still went to Central Park. They still picked up trash, still fed the ducks, still made the world a little kinder. And sometimes, when the light hit just right, when Ellie laughed at something Logan said, when Autumn smiled that smile that had first caught his attention, Logan could swear he felt Lily there with them, finally at peace because her brother had finally chosen to live. Love, real love, doesn't arrive with fanfare. It comes in quiet moments, a child's sticker on a powerful man's hand, a shared sandwich with a janitor, a hand extended not in pity but in recognition of shared humanity. It comes when we choose to see past the surface to the potential beneath, when we decide that everyone deserves a second chance, when we realize that the walls we build to protect ourselves also keep out the very thing we need most. Autumn Hayes had walked into Grant and Company with nothing but determination and love for her daughter. She walked out as Autumn Whitmore, not because a rich man had saved her, but because she'd had the courage to save herself and, in doing so, had saved him too. And somewhere in heaven Marcus smiled, knowing his girls were finally safe, finally loved, finally home. While beside him, a little girl with ribbons in her hair whispered, "I told you my brother would find his way." He just needed someone to show him that love is stronger than guilt, that hope is stronger than fear, and that sometimes the best families are the ones we choose. The greatest transformations don't happen in boardrooms or bank accounts. They happen in hearts brave enough to try again, in hands willing to reach out, in voices that say you are not alone and mean it. They happen when we stop waiting for the world to be kind and choose to make it kind ourselves, one small act at a time, one person at a time, one love at a time. This story could have ended a dozen different ways. Autumn could have signed that resignation letter. Logan could have stayed locked in his tower of guilt. Ellie could have grown up believing the world was hard and cold and unforgiving. But that's not what happened. What happened was a miracle disguised as ordinary life, three people choosing love over fear, hope over resignation, kindness over judgment. If you've stayed until the end, it's because you believe in something. Maybe you believe in second chances. Maybe you believe that love can heal wounds that seem unhealable. Maybe you believe that kindness isn't weakness but the greatest strength we possess. Or maybe you just needed to be reminded that no matter how dark the night, morning always comes, bringing with it the possibility of a new story. Whatever brought you here, remember this. You are never too broken to be loved. You are never too lost to be found. You are never too late to start again. Every single day, you have the choice to pick up the trash in parks that aren't yours, to share your sandwich even when you're hungry, to see the potential in people others have written off. Every single day, you can choose to make the world a little kinder. And sometimes, just sometimes, when you make that choice, you'll find that the person you really saved was yourself. Share this story if you believe that love is stronger than loss. Subscribe if you believe that kindness can change the world. But most importantly, go out into your own life and be someone's unexpected blessing. Be the CEO who sees potential instead of problems. Be the single parent who refuses to give up. Be the child who hands out heart stickers to sad adults. Be the proof that good still exists, that love still wins, that broken people can build beautiful things together. Because the truth is, we're all walking around with our own invisible wounds, our own secret griefs, our own desperate hopes. And the only way we heal is together, one act of kindness at a time, one moment of grace at a time, one love story at a time. The end is never really the end. It's just the beginning of what comes next. And what comes next is up to you.
The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the Montana blizzard, each swipe revealing nothing but white fury for the briefest moment before the snow reclaimed the glass. Owen Carter gripped the steering wheel with both hands, his knuckles pale in the dashboard's dim glow, while his 8-year-old daughter Penny hummed softly in the back seat, her voice a fragile thread of normalcy in the chaos. Scout, their golden retriever, pressed his nose against the rear window, his breath fogging the glass as he watched the world disappear into the storm. The truck crawled forward at 15 miles per hour, its headlights carving weak tunnels through the whiteout that seemed to close behind them like a living thing. Owen had driven through plenty of Montana winters, but this storm felt different, felt hungry, as if the mountain itself had decided to swallow everything in its path. "Daddy, are we almost home?" Penny's voice carried that particular note of forced bravery that children adopt when they're trying not to show fear. Owen caught her eyes in the rearview mirror, wide and trusting despite the violent shaking of the truck as wind gusts slammed into them from the north. He forced a smile that he hoped looked more confident than he felt. 20 more minutes, sweetheart. Scout's keeping watch, aren't you, boy? The golden retriever's tail thumped once against the seat, but his attention remained fixed on something outside, his entire body suddenly rigid with alertness. Before Owen could process the dog's behavior, Scout erupted into motion, barking with an urgency that made Penny jump. The retriever launched himself over the seats toward the driver's side door, his 70 pounds of muscle and determination nearly causing Owen to lose control of the wheel. "Scout, down." "What the hell?" But the dog was already pawing frantically at the door handle, whining with a desperation Owen had never heard from him before. Through the storm's howling came another sound, barely audible but unmistakably there. A metallic groaning that didn't belong to the wind. Owen's foot found the brake, the truck sliding slightly before coming to a stop. Scout's barking intensified, his whole body trembling with the need to get outside. "Stay in the truck, Penny. Lock the doors behind me." Owen pulled on his coat and opened the door, immediately regretting it as the wind hit him like a frozen sledgehammer. Scout shot past him into the white void, disappearing instantly. Owen stumbled after him, shouting the dog's name into the wind that threw his words back at him like ice pellets. 10 feet from the truck, he could barely see its taillights anymore. 20 feet, and he was alone in a world of white and gray, following Scout's barking like a lifeline. His boots sank deep with each step, the snow already past his knees, and he wondered with a sick feeling if he'd be able to find his way back. Then he saw it, a dark shape against the snow, metal twisted and wrong. A car, or what remained of one, its front end wrapped around a massive pine tree like a grotesque embrace. The driver's door hung open, creaking in the wind, and Scout was already there, digging frantically at something half buried in a drift. Owen stumbled closer and felt his heart stop. A woman, her dark hair frozen into crystalline strands, lay motionless in the snow. Her coat was torn, dark stains spreading across the fabric that Owen's mind refused to identify as blood. Scout was licking her face, whimpering, his tail tucked low. Owen dropped to his knees beside her, pulling off his glove to feel for a pulse at her neck. Her skin was like ice, but there, faint as a whisper, he felt it. She was alive. "Help me, Scout." Together, man and dog worked to free her from the snow's grip. She was small, maybe 5'4", but dead weight in Owen's arms as he lifted her. That's when he saw it, clutched in her frozen fingers like she'd been holding on to it even as consciousness fled. A detective's badge, the metal still somehow catching light despite the storm. Rachel Brooks, Montana State Police. Owen's mind raced as he struggled back toward where he hoped the truck waited. A detective, out here, crashed in a storm that no one should have been driving in. He glanced back at the wrecked car once more and noticed something that made his blood run colder than the wind. Tire tracks, barely visible but there, leading away from the scene. Another vehicle had been here, had left her here. Scout led them back, his golden form appearing and disappearing in the snow like a guardian spirit. Owen could hear Penny's frightened voice calling for them before he saw the truck's lights. He managed to get the back door open, laying the unconscious woman across the seat. "Daddy? Who is she? Is she okay?" Penny's questions tumbled over each other as Owen cranked the heat to maximum and grabbed the emergency blankets from under the seat. "She's hurt, baby. We need to get her to the hospital." Scout found her. The dog had already positioned himself on the floor, pressed against the woman as if trying to share what warmth he had. As Owen pulled back onto what he hoped was still the road, he couldn't shake the image of those tire tracks leading away. Someone had been there when she crashed, or maybe caused her to crash, and they'd left her to die in the storm. He pressed harder on the accelerator, fighting every instinct that told him to slow down in the blizzard. In the back seat, Penny had started singing again, soft and low, the same lullaby Lisa used to sing before the cancer took her. The woman's breathing was shallow, rattling. Through the rearview mirror, Owen saw headlights in the distance behind them, appearing for just a moment before the storm swallowed them whole. He told himself it was another traveler, someone else caught in the storm. But Scout's low growl, rumbling from deep in his chest as he watched those vanishing lights, suggested otherwise. The emergency room erupted into controlled chaos the moment Owen carried Rachel Brooks through the sliding doors. "Doctor?" Elena Martinez appeared as if summoned, her experienced eyes taking in the detective's condition in a single sweep before barking orders that sent nurses scurrying in all directions. Core temperatures dropped to 89 degrees. "Get warming blankets, heated IV fluids, cardiac monitoring, now!" She guided Owen to lay Rachel on a gurney, her hands already checking pupils, pulse, breathing. How long was she out there? Owen shook his head, still catching his breath from the struggle through the hospital parking lot. "I don't know. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. My dog found her about 15 miles up Highway 2. Penny pressed against Owen's leg, Scout beside her, both of them watching as the medical team wheeled Rachel away into the depths of the hospital. "Doctor." Martinez paused at the doorway, her expression grave. "She's got severe hypothermia, possible concussion from the crash, and she's lost blood. Those wounds on her side, they're not all from the accident. Some of them look older, maybe a day or two. Did you see anyone else at the scene?" The question hung in the air like an accusation, though Owen couldn't say why it felt that way. "No, just tire tracks leading away. Someone was there and left." Martinez's jaw tightened. "I'll need to report this to the sheriff's department. You should prepare to answer questions." They waited in uncomfortable plastic chairs, the fluorescent lights harsh after the darkness of the storm. Penny had fallen asleep against Owen's shoulder, Scout's head resting on her feet. The waiting room was nearly empty. Just them and an elderly couple, sharing worried whispers. Owen found himself staring at the badge he'd retrieved from Rachel's pocket before the nurses took her clothes. Detective Rachel Brooks, the photo showing a woman with sharp eyes and a determined set to her jaw. What had she been investigating that left her bleeding in a snowbank? The question gnawed at him like hunger. "Mr. Carter." The voice was deep, authoritative, and somehow familiar. Owen looked up to find Sheriff Tom Henderson standing over them, his substantial frame blocking the light. Henderson had been sheriff for 12 years, ran unopposed every election, and commanded the kind of respect that came from fear as much as admiration. His gray eyes were cold as the storm outside as they studied Owen. "Heard you found one of our detectives out on Highway 2. It wasn't a question. Owen nodded, careful not to wake Penny. "Scout found her, actually. She was buried in the snow next to her crashed car." Henderson's eyes narrowed slightly, a micro-expression that Owen might have missed if he hadn't been watching for it. "Scout. That's the dog?" His gaze shifted to the golden retriever, who had lifted his head to stare back. Something passed between animal and man. A moment of mutual assessment that ended when Scout's lips pulled back slightly. Not quite a snarl, but certainly not friendly. "Yes, sir." He led me right to her. Lucky thing, too. Few more minutes, and Henderson cut him off with a raised hand. "Lucky." "Yes. Very lucky that you happen to be driving that particular stretch of road in the worst blizzard we've had in 5 years. The implication hung between them like a blade. Owen felt his jaw clench. I was coming back from Great Falls with my daughter. Penny had a specialist appointment at the Children's Hospital. You can verify that easily enough. Henderson's smile didn't reach his eyes. Oh, I will. I'll verify everything. See, Detective Brooks was working a sensitive case. Internal affairs type situation. Makes me wonder if her accident was really an accident, and if it wasn't, makes me wonder who might want her out of the way. Owen stood slowly, lifting Penny into his arms without waking her. Are you suggesting I had something to do with this? I saved her life. Did you? Or did you make sure there were witnesses when you found her? Henderson stepped closer, close enough that Owen could smell coffee and something sour on his breath. Scout rose to his feet, positioning himself between them, a low rumble building in his chest. The sheriff looked down at the dog with something like amusement. Protective, isn't he? Almost like he's got something to protect you from. Before Owen could respond, Dr. Martinez appeared in the doorway. Sheriff Henderson. Mr. Carter. Detective Brooks is stable but still unconscious. She's lucky Mr. Carter found her when he did. Another hour, and we'd be having a very different conversation. Henderson's expression shifted to one of professional concern so quickly it was jarring. Good to hear, Doctor. When can I speak with her? Martinez shook her head. Not for at least 48 hours, possibly longer. She's been through significant trauma. Her body needs time to recover. The sheriff nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Owen's face. Well then, Mr. Carter, I'll need you to come by the station tomorrow. Give a full statement. Every detail about finding her. Sometimes people remember things they didn't realize they saw. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Owen? I'd appreciate it if you didn't leave town for a few days. Just until we sort this all out. Owen watched him go, his heavy footsteps echoing down the hospital corridor. Scout's growling hadn't stopped until the sheriff turned the corner out of sight. Doctor, Martinez looked between Owen and the empty hallway, her expression troubled. Mr. Carter, can I speak with you privately for a moment? She glanced meaningfully at Penny, still sleeping in his arms. Owen settled his daughter on the chairs with his coat as a blanket. Scout immediately curling up beside her. He followed the doctor a few feet away, still keeping Penny in sight. Detective Brooks's injuries tell a story, Martinez said quietly. The crash injuries are obvious, but there are defensive wounds on her hands and arms. Bruising that's older. She's been in more than one fight recently. And there's something else. She hesitated, clearly debating how much to say. When we undressed her, we found documents sewn into the lining of her coat. I haven't read them, that's not my business. But someone who goes to those lengths is either paranoid or in real danger. She met Owen's eyes directly. That dog of yours might have saved more than just her life. He might have saved whatever she was trying to protect. Be careful, Mr. Carter. In my experience, Sheriff Henderson doesn't ask questions he doesn't already think he knows the answers to. 2 days passed in a blur of hospital visits, worried calls from concerned neighbors, and Owen trying to maintain normalcy for Penny while his mind churned with questions. On the third morning, as February's sun broke through the clouds for the first time since the storm, Owen received the call. Rachel Brooks was awake. He found her propped up in the hospital bed, her face still pale, but her eyes alert, studying him with the kind of intensity that probably made suspects confess without being asked. You're the one who found me, she said, her voice hoarse but steady. You and your dog. Scout found you, Owen corrected, setting down the coffee and muffins he'd brought. He knew you were there somehow. I just carried you. Rachel's expression softened slightly. Scout. I remember. Gold fur and warm breath when I thought I was dying. Is he? She stopped as Penny peeked around the doorframe, clutching a piece of paper. Owen sighed. I told you to wait in the hall, sweetheart. But Penny was already approaching the bed with the determination only an 8-year-old could muster. I made this for you, she said, offering the paper to Rachel. It was a crayon drawing of Scout, standing heroically in the snow, a small figure in blue beside him. That's you. Daddy says Scout saved you because that's what heroes do. Rachel took the drawing with hands that trembled slightly. Whether from weakness or emotion, Owen couldn't tell. This is beautiful. Thank you. Penny, the girl supplied, beaming. I'm Penny and that's my dad, Owen, and Scout is at home, Because dogs can't come to hospitals, which is stupid because Scout is cleaner than most people. Rachel actually smiled, the expression transforming her face from suspicious detective to someone altogether more human. You're absolutely right, Penny. That is a stupid rule. She looked up at Owen. Thank you. Both of you. I understand you've been visiting every day. Seemed wrong to save someone's life and then just disappear, Owen said, then hesitated before adding, Sheriff Henderson's been by to see you? Rachel's expression shuddered immediately, the warmth vanishing. Briefly, I told him I don't remember much about the accident. Head trauma, you know. She touched the bandage around her head lightly. He seemed very concerned. The way she said concerned made it clear she meant the opposite. He also mentioned you've been very helpful, very cooperative. Even offered to let me stay somewhere safe while I recover, since my apartment is apparently being renovated for water damage I don't remember happening. Owen and Rachel locked eyes, a moment of understanding passing between them. Funny thing about that, Owen said carefully, we've got a spare room at our place, quiet, good for recovery. Scout's excellent security, and Penny would love the company. She doesn't get much female influence since. He trailed off, the words since her mother died, sticking in his throat. Rachel studied him for a long moment. That's very generous, but I couldn't impose. I don't even know you. Penny, who had been quietly coloring in another corner of her drawing, looked up with eyes that were Lisa's, brown and earnest. Mommy always said we should help people who need help. And you need help. Your apartment has water damage. The innocent conviction in Penny's voice seemed to decide something for Rachel. When you put it that way, how can I refuse? She met Owen's eyes again. Just until I'm back on my feet. And I insist on paying rent. Owen shook his head. We'll discuss that when you're not in a hospital bed. Dr. Martinez says you can be discharged tomorrow if you have somewhere safe to go with someone to monitor you. Rachel nodded slowly, then looked down at Penny's drawing again. Your daughter's right. Scout is a hero. I think I owe him my life. The next afternoon, Owen pulled into his driveway with Rachel in the passenger seat, Penny chattering excitedly from the back about all the things she wanted to show their guest. The house sat on 5 acres outside Whitefish, a 2-story craftsman that Lisa had fallen in love with the moment she saw it. Scout burst through the dog door as soon as he heard the truck, circling it with tail wagging furiously. When Owen helped Rachel out, supporting her still weak legs, Scout immediately pressed against her other side, as if he understood his job wasn't finished yet. It's beautiful, Rachel said, taking in the wraparound porch, the mountain views, the sense of peaceful isolation. How long have you lived here? Owen guided her up the porch steps, Scout padding alongside. 7 years. Since just after Penny was born, Lisa wanted somewhere to raise a family away from town noise. He pushed open the front door, warmth and the smell of the stew he'd left in the slow cooker greeting them. Lisa